Gematria on freedomtalkradio.net. freedomtalkradio.net.
Hello.
Good morning, my dear, and everyone out there.
Show 266. It is Wednesday.
We haven't got much to talk about today.
Oh, well, all over the place. I'm just...
Might as well give it a miss now and switch it off. Huh?
Can I at least get the date out? Wednesday, the 18th of February, 2015.
Keeps us off the streets, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. And it keeps us off the streets and onto the pool table. We finish with the show and then go straight out to the pool table to shoot some pool.
Something did happen yesterday. It was interesting. While we were out on the beach, I was sitting in that lovely
yes,
swinging chair that this family had put down on the beach, right opposite their own property. And the owner of it come down and started talking to me. And he comes once every 2 weeks. So.
He came twice last year.
Huh? He came twice last year,
yeah. They live in Maryborough, which is 38 kilometres away, so this is their beach home, and it is on the beach with the swinging chair that we often sit in. And so they decided to come yesterday, and all 38 kilometres to spend a...
Anyhow, he couldn't sit in it because I was in it. Anyhow, very nice fellow. We got talking, and one thing led to another. I said, well, you were down the beach, and I was sort of resting up. I didn't want to walk too far because I'd got a slightly damaged heart. Right? So I said, oh, it doesn't bother me, but I walk quite a ways, and I do work out in the gym 3 times a day, and blah, blah. I said, but I don't really like walking. I'd rather be carried. So I said, she loves to walk, and off she goes. And I said, enough for me to walk this far, so I'll just sit down and wait for it to come back. So he said, oh, what's wrong with your heart, sort of thing? And I said, well, last year when we was in Egypt, I said, I had 11 heart attacks. I was poisoned by the fucking Jews. Well, this got his interest. Right? So then I told him the story about Benedict being locked up and how his staff had been missing and presumed and reported murdered. And he sort of just a typical Australian, said, right, meant to this, right? So I laid the whole story on him, and he was very interested in the whole thing.
And then I come up and then go.
And then she comes up and takes over, of course. Anyway,
it was...
I did get one word in, didn't I?
No, you did well, babe, and you can continue. And then Joel, of course, was there as the witness. He's just introduced Joel. Joel lives with us. He's the witness. And
so anyhow, I told him how many times they tried to kill me and why. This is before you got there. And how when I was in Canada, my then wife had challenged me to read the Bible, and I believed, and I said, bullshit, if I read the Bible, I'll pull it to bits.
I was there then, babe.
Right?
Yeah.
So I told him how it all come about. I said, but being like an idiot savant for this sort of stuff, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I decided to translate the Hebrew and the Greek and bought computer software and all sorts of things. I think it was all very interesting. But I knew that there was a code in it. And it was evident to me because my evil wife at the time, she believed it. So therefore, an evil person who believes it means it's not true. So that was the main
thrust,
if you like. Now, I should go back a little bit in time. When I divorced my first wife, you might say it was like a dog off a chain. And this buddy I went to school with, he was in a class behind me because he's a bit stupid, same age as me. Anyhow, he wanted to go to Parents Without Partners. Big mistake. Right, don't ever go there. Right? They're either psychopaths that have caused the breakup of a marriage, or they've been hardly done by a husband who's caused the breakup of the marriage, and they're heartbroken, therefore they hate men. Whatever. That's not a good place to go. But anyhow, I got sucked in by my mate, and as we're walking in to the RSL, which is the Returned Soldiers League, have a big hall in Bankstown, very, very big place. And as I'm walking in through the door, an angel spoke to me and says, "Marry that one." I said, "What?" I said, "Marry that one." This angel had spoke to me many times before, and I have to listen. Right? So, oh no. Right? So here's this woman walking across in front of my eyes, which turns out to be the woman I did eventually marry, but I did my best not to marry her. I avoided her like a plague, right? But the circumstances were angelic. And finally I just give up. So I ended up marrying. So from that, all sorts of things happened, because she turned out she was into witchcraft, right? And the idea was for me to experience various women that were of low morals, totally deceitful, etc. And I was actually, all I wanted to do as a young man was marry a nice girl and have some kids, and that's it, right? But it was not to be, because the angel would step in and either talk to me directly or manoeuvre me into situations where I couldn't get out of it. So you get used to it. But I thought as a child that this is, everyone had an angel, well, a voice talked to you. I didn't know it was an angel. I just thought everyone has someone talk to them from above, and so what? No big deal. But later on, when I started to expound upon this to talking to relatives, well, they ganged up on me. And there's a pack mentality in families. And if you are offside of the general consensus of a family's thinking, let's say you're a Muslim, if you go out of their one-eyed view of the earth, you will become set upon. So it's a bit like dogs turning on another dog that's been injured, and they'll all attack it, right? Or sharks, or whatever. There is this family pack mentality. And I found very early in my life that they were all stupid. My intellect as a child was far higher than the average adult, and I just thought that was also plain stupid. It was amazing to me, right, that they couldn't see or hear or understand what things I was talking about. Right? So as it turned out, the pack mentality grew from that. And my sister and brother, half sister and half brother, were particularly interested in their own lusts that were more evil than the previous generation, which was bad enough. But then the deceit comes in, and the lies and the manipulation of what they really are into being appearing to be nice, because they know what immorality is, or whatever the case may be that they're into. And they will, like a drug addict, keep it secret as long as possible. And they get very, very adept at doing it. And a person like me comes along, I just speak openly and truthfully all the time. Well, that's not a good thing as far as they're concerned, because it exposes them. So it's the underbelly being exposed. I don't like it. So I become, from my brother's perspective, an amazing bullshit artist. Everything I spoke was bullshit. Yet he was the man that was with me many years of my life and saw miracle after miracle after miracle. And he would then deflect it off. He'd go be stunned for a while, and then he'd deflect it off. And if I talked about it in front of the family, I'd become delusional, or I'd become bullshitting or lying or something. So when my brother and sister died, ironically, there was only 35.77 days apart. And
in age.
So she died at the same age. Let's think here, I've got it here somewhere.
He was 76.57.
Well, I got here. Born in Sydney on August the 18th, 1938, she had lived 76.475 years. My brother, half-brother Ron, he had lived 76.573 years. So he was slightly older by 35.77 days when you take the hour of death. Blah, blah, blah. And that word is falsehood, literally, untrue, fictively, deceitful, false, lying, liar, lying, lie and liar. Whoa. Does that ever nail them right there? Right? Now the difference in age between the two was 4.5 days. And that is how many days I lived as Jesus on the earth. 5 days till the resurrection. So it fitted that perfectly. That's why when my mother, who was pregnant via Reggie, right? Big deal in those days. Sex before marriage, holy shit! Right, that was almost crucifixion on the spot. They'll kill you. Right? So they got married real quick, and the date they got married on, Ronald was already in the womb. Right, so the date was the 20th July 1934. So my mother, she changed the date back. And you can see it all scratched out. Very lousy job. Not like me do it properly. Very lousy forgery to January the 20th. 1934. But you go back to the real date, now we've got lie and truth. We go back to the truth when it was the 20th of July in 1934. If you add the height of the pyramid up to the missing capstone and call it weeks, so it's 454.8 weeks, becomes 454 weeks and 4 days. Right? So to convert that to feet, it's got the exact height of the pyramid up to reject the capstone. That's how it is. It is so perfect. Right? So just as I didn't think I had much to talk about, did I? In the last little while, my niece, who and I have been very close over the years, she always thought about her uncle's often adventures in Africa and all these places. She started to do it herself. She was also an athlete and always thought about the old uncle off into the wilderness, so to speak. So she and I have been communicating. She wanted to know about the age that her father was when he died. So I'd worked it out previously and sent her that information this morning. Then she come back and she wanted to know about June, how she related to it. Because she had, when my sister had died on February the 7th, she wanted to know and asked you, as a matter of fact, if I was upset or not. And my back and feet still hurt a bit from the uncontrollable tap dancing. Right? That one less, the earth is a much sweeter smelling place with that bastard gone, right? So I wrote back to her and I said to her, after this lying and all that kind of stuff, believe me, what she did to me, she was one evil fucking bastard. Right? And I mean that in the nicest possible way. With both gone, ends one very big thorn in my heart, so to speak. June born in Sydney on August the 18th, 1938, she had lived 76.475 years, and Greek 764 is to be implied as the act impious or wicked. Now, my brother was the same number.
Same.
Right? So here's both of them died within a month, a little bit of each other. And they're both impious, wicked bastards. Eh? And it goes on and on and on. Right? So she was more wicked than my brother. And he was an evil bastard. Right? But at least he had a bit of humour about him. Right? And he never denied that he was an evil bastard in far as going to all the brothels in Malaysia. That's all he talked about. And I said, they're all children, you bastard, right? And that didn't matter to him. I said, you're a child molester. It didn't matter to him. That's how they earn a living for the family. They're all starving out there. Said, I used to say to them, well, why not give them a few dollars and help them out? Rather than bloody shag some poor 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. That's how they earned a living. No, it's just sort of strange logic. So anyhow, that's what I've been doing over a little while with my niece. Anyhow, what are you going to do? What was you going to talk about?
I wanted you to go through the history of the family, where they came from, because
My family.
Yeah, the Christ.
Way back
the Christ family. The series of what it's all about, the fulfillment of the prophecies of Isaiah, where the family came from.
Well, the earliest part of the family that can be traced after Jerusalem goes back to 1500 some odd years BC to the Chronicles of Ireland, where all of the Judah tribe of Essenes had moved to, right? And the line of kings carried on right down to when Zedekiah, who had the man who was a prophet, he was actually in part of the royal family. He was the uncle of Zedekiah. Or, no, he was the grandfather of Zedekiah.
We're talking about Jeremiah the prophet.
Jeremiah the prophet. And when his grandson wouldn't listen to him.
And this is Zedekiah. As
Zedekiah.
king.
He had locked him up and thrown him in prison.
Zedekiah had Jeremiah locked up. Yes.
And he would have stayed there except Nebuchadnezzar invaded and got him out.
Yes.
Right? Now there's an act of God, if you like, because once he got out, he'd already killed, by the time he'd taken over Jerusalem, he'd already killed the king, Zedekiah, but he had 4 sons which were murdered before his eyes, and then he was blinded and taken to Babylon in prison, died in prison. And a young man, 35, 36, 37 years old. And his 2 daughters were spared because Nebuchadnezzar was a Chaldean who didn't believe that the line of kings could be passed on through the females, because in his culture females were shit. Right? But in Hebrew they can. So when Zedekiah was dead, he had no heirs except for the 2 girls. This is called the Laphael. And this is the story which the Jews don't want you to know about in the English world or the Western world. That the 2 daughters were taken by Jeremiah 3 years after the siege of Jerusalem. That's 583 BC. First to Egypt, and then from Egypt across to Spain, and then from Spain around through the Gibraltar and over to Tara in Ireland. And that is where the Tara Mound is, with all the temple implements are still there to this day. They have never been able to get into the Tara Mound. There's an angelic presence that keeps all researchers from actually digging their way into the mound, because there's something special in there. On the doors, or the pillars outside the mound itself, is the actual date that they arrived in Tara via the eclipses and so forth, which I worked out to be the 11th of October 583 BC. So they married, as they got older, they married into the royal line of Judah, which is where the branch comes together.
Yes.
You know, because there's a branch and it's been split. So then they descended down 66 kings or so, until finally they moved the rock of the scone, which is the sacred pillar of Jacob, 28:11, Genesis 28:11. And all kings of legitimate line of Jacob had been anointed upon this stone. So it is it. It's true. It's part of it. There's no bullshit about it. So it ended up in Scotland because the throne had to be taken eventually to Scotland, and did. So by the time we got to Scotland, this is where your Scottish kings come into it. And that brings us down to King William the Lion of Scotland. And he was anointed upon it. And then eventually his son, the Golightly, Henry Golightly, named after King Henry, that's what they used to do in those days, he said not to become a king.
Hence the name Golightly.
Golightly.
Means stay away.
Golightly, me boy. So he named him Golightly. That's where the Golightly name comes from. And the Golightly name has always remained apart from the royal line. So when we get down to King James, who was of a lesser line through his brother, right, but married into the martial line, by the time it gets down to King James, he already knew that the true line of kings was the Golightly line, just like you know your own cousins, right? So he wrote and put in codes into the King James Bible, and now he was a Catholic. They were all Catholics. So he was a Catholic, writing a Protestant Bible, which would turn out to be the Protestant Bible of the Western world. But being a Catholic, it's a Catholic Bible. Right? And that's where he put all the codes in, with William Shakespeare as his right-hand man, who was Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxley. And he was responsible for getting Elizabeth to repent on her deathbed and nominate the murdered cousin, Mary Queen of Scots, the mother of King James VI of Scotland, to become King of England, and that's where he became James I. As I said the other day, the Union Jack is the combined flags of Wales, France, England, Scotland, Ireland, all one laid on top of the other. It's a very beautiful flag, in actual fact. It's magnificent, the way it's done, like aesthetically pleasing. On top of the white flag of Jesus with a red cross on it, which is the flag of England. That's what it all come about. So his name was Jacques, because his mother spoke French, as all did the royals of those days, and which in English is James, which in Hebrew is Jacob. So it's the union of Jacob, the union of James, or the Union Jack. That's where the name of the flag comes from, Union Jack. Ask a scholar that, see if they'll tell you that. No, don't know. Because it's all controlled by the Jews, who control Freemasonry, control the scholars and the universities. You don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. Right? So that's where I come along and say, and say, right, that's what it's all about. Whether you believe it or not, don't matter to me. I'm just telling you what the truth is. Like, is the sun up in the sky? Yeah. Right? Does it give off heat? Yeah. I'll tell you the truth. If it stops, I'll tell you when. So wait until it stops, and then I'll tell you when it stops. Until then, the sun will continue to shine, so to speak. And that is my philosophy on all things, no matter, even if it's how embarrassing it is to me. If my life has led me down a brothel's bloody street where I'd encountered some bloody slut, which I happened to have to marry in the first place, which was Eileen, I'll tell you the truth. And if my kids don't like it, tough. Truth is truth. Right? If you can't sort it out that God comes to the earth and doesn't tell you the truth, there's something bloody wrong here. So no matter what it does to me, the scourging of this life is far worse than hanging on a bloody tree for a couple of hours. Right? As horrible as that was, it's nothing compared to this life. Right? So, we're going full circle, and here we are, and it's all the line of Judah, which is Essene, which is the oldest religion on earth, predates them all. They are the nobles that end up in India. These are the white people, the blue-eyed white people of the northern...
The Aryans.
The Aryans, they're all the Aryans. This is what Hitler was on about, right? If you say, well, Hitler was a bad man, well, you're wrong. It's as simple as that.
Oh, that's what I was going to do. Read the message. Here it is. The Aryan Manifesto, Aryan Christian. This came about from somebody who left a comment at the YouTube that it went into spam. I just looked at it this morning, and left a comment. Help us defeat the Jews, with a link to this AryanChristian.com, Aryan Manifesto. Anyway, the home page of it, I'll put the link again in the description box. A beautiful photograph. On earth as it is in heaven, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. On earth as it is in heaven, Matthew 6:10. And this photograph, I don't know where it is taken, but 2 cruise ships coming into this most beautiful, could be a fjord, could be, I don't know, it's either in Europe or in somewhere on the way to Alaska. Have you seen?
Well, it could also be New Zealand. There are a lot of areas like that.
No, it's more likely to be Europe, I think. This is the Aryan Manifesto. But anyway, it's just a glorious... And it looks like heaven, of course it does. With mountains around and these 2 cruise ships.
Yeah, it could be Alaska.
Now, their manifesto, Aryan Manifesto. Being Aryans means having beauty, creativity, and racist honour. Aryan men and women possess the glory of furthering the Aryan race. Refusing this glory with cowardice, hesitation, fear, or any other perverted psychosis degenerates the Aryan race, and thus will be culled from our existence. This culling will be done by forces beyond and within our race. Aryans will spread the Aryan race throughout the earth to the benefit of the world. All those who oppose this mission will be put down. It's very straightforward. That's their manifesto. Then there's another title, Beauty, and again, glorious photograph. And then photographs underneath of Aryan women and men, blue-eyed, fair skin, mostly blonde hair or red hair. And there's Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ. Beautiful blue eyes. Anyway, creativity. A vegetarian diet of organic, non-GMO fruits and vegetables and natural starches as backup plans is ideal. Natural starches include rice, beans, corn and potatoes. Fruit is the only food that a human can survive on without another water source. Although drinking reverse osmosis water in addition to the water in fruits and vegetables and making sure your urine is clear as often as possible is optimal. Eating meat, dairy, artificial salt and other inorganic food builds up toxins in the body. A change to a healthy diet will give the body a natural colonoscopy.
That makes me very happy.
Yes. After your natural colonoscopy, your flatulence and bowel movements. I didn't read this before, but anyway, this is good information. Your flatulence and bowel movements should be close to odorless, living in accord with our human...
Well, that's a shame. I'll go along with that.
Living in accord with our human biological heritage and in harmony with nature brings great benefits. This means, eating fresh, wholesome food in its natural state as nature has brought it forth. It must be uncooked, unprocessed, unpreserved, and not tampered with in any other way, although cooked natural starches are good backup plants. A raw till 4 diet is a good standard to keep. This further means it must be organically grown without the use of chemicals, availing ourselves of a clean, wholesome environment, fresh, unpolluted air, clean water, and the beneficial therapy from the direct rays of the sun every day is most healthy. Some form of strenuous physical exercise several times a week. Rest and relaxation, both mental and physical, including sound and efficient sleep. A form of recreation that is gratifying to our sense of accomplishment. A sense of purpose, security and confidence to fuel our goals for accomplishment and living a good life. We must have goals and we must be motivated. Gregarious living within the framework of our Aryan society and social intercourse with our Aryan comrades is necessary to our existence. We are social animals, healthy expression of our sexual instincts, and living in a pleasing and healthful environment blesses our lives. The use of any medicines, drugs or chemicals almost always has no healing or therapeutic value. In fact, all medicines, drugs, narcotics and chemicals are poisonous and toxic to the human body. Furthermore, and for the same reason, the use of vitamin, mineral or enzyme supplements or the use of artificial food colouring, preservatives or refined or fragmented foods damages the body. The practice of fasting is the best means of ridding the body of accumulated poisons and toxins. Fasting is the most natural and effective means the body has of overcoming all forms of disease and restoring itself back to health. Living in and promoting a eugenic Aryan society means that we take particular care in not only in perpetuating our precious Aryan race, but we take deliberate care that the misfits are culled and that each generation advances to higher and more salubrious levels, physically, aesthetically, and mentally. Racist honour. Racist honour means recognising the superiority of the Aryan race, committing one's life to spreading its beauty and creativity, interacting harmoniously with that beauty and creativity, and striking down those who oppose the Aryan race. Very interesting.
No, come on, that.
And then this heading is albino negroids. Well. There's photographs. Doesn't say anything about them, just photographs. More. Goes on under the more, the Holocaust myth. Remember, we reclassified that as the Holocaust yesterday.
Oh, absolutely, it's bullshit.
And then there's videos leading to 21 facts about the Holocaust myth. Let's see, Holodomor. What's that? I don't know what that is. Holodomor. Anyway, I'll put the link there. You can go and have a look at it. Gulags, World War One, World War Two. Back to the home page. Oh no, the Aryan Christian Creed. This wasn't on the front page when I was first there. The Gospels named Matthew, Mark, Luke and John from the Codex Sinaiticus and or the Codex Vaticanus are axiomatic and authoritative texts of the Christian faith. In the Lord's Prayer, Jesus says, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven," Matthew 6:10. Beauty, creativity and racist honour are heavenly truths that should be spread on earth. Those who oppose the spreading of truth oppose the will of God. Bloodied and before he was covered with the cloth. In keeping with the words of John the Baptist to Roman soldiers, John 14-16, do extortion to no one, accuse no one falsely, and be content with your wages, Luke 3:14. And the duty of government to impose good, individual Aryan men, possess the noble task of governing this world with racist honour. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke and John do not recount Jesus or his disciples spreading the gospel through force or directing anyone else to do so through the church or any other means. While beauty, creativity and racist honour are heavenly truths, they can be observed on earth and thus should be enforced by governing Aryan authorities, both Christian and pagan, in harmony with the words of our Lord, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." God does not permit the evils of ugliness and stupidity to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Non-Aryan Christians will be given Aryan bodies and minds at their resurrection. Of course, the resurrection has already occurred. This is something these people do not understand. The resurrection has been occurring since his rebirth to the earth, January 11th, 1944. The Aryan race should be the sole race on earth as it is the sole race in heaven. Christ died for all creatures of the world, regardless of species, and salvation is given to members of all races. This does not, however, take away from the realities of ugliness and stupidity and their evil. The higher the average intelligence quotient among the people, the better. Governing Christian and pagan Aryan men should only allow beautiful and intelligent Aryans to reproduce and punish all criminal offenders, as beauty, intelligence and racist honour are empirical truths that, unlike the gospel, do not require faith in order to be received. Achieving a world before the resurrection where Aryan authorities are able to enforce this law in a widespread fashion is something that requires intelligence and tactical manoeuvring and might or might not occur. But regardless, faithful servants of the Lord have the blessing of being able to spread the truths of God until Jesus returns. The Son of Man will come at an unexpected hour. Matthew 24:44. Again, the people behind this site do not acknowledge that the Christ is already here and the unexpected hour has already occurred. That hour was 2:22 a.m. and the day was January the 11th, 1944. Who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the Master has put in charge of the servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master finds so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you that he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But if that evil servant says in his heart, "My master is not coming for a long time," and begins to beat his fellow servants and eat and drink with drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour which he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Pagan Aryans, while possessing heavenly beauty, intelligence and racist honour, reject God who created these qualities. And Christian Aryans should follow in the footsteps of our Lord and his disciples by expressing this truth to pagan Aryans and all creatures through the preaching of the word, not through force. Now, it goes on, translated from the text of the Codex Sinaiticus, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. It goes on, Abraham begot Isaac, begot Jacob, Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. And then it goes on, Judah begot Pharez and Terah of Tamar, Pharez begot Hezron, Hezron begot Ram, right down to Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born. Now, Jesus was born of Mary, and they've got that right, who is called the Christ. The point that they are making and have always made is that Joseph was of the tribe of Judah as well as Mary, although Joseph was not the father of Jesus. So all the generations from Abraham till David are 14 generations, etc., etc. But the birth of Jesus Christ was thus after his mother had been betrothed, that's like engaged to Joseph, before they came together. She was found with the child of the Holy Spirit. So it goes on to quote the Bible regarding, goes down to Herod was alarmed and all Jerusalem with him, and he assembled all the chief priests and scribes of the people and inquired of them where the Christ should be born. And they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it was written by the prophet, and thou, Bethlehem, land of Judah, art by no means the least amongst the princes of Judah, for out of thee will come a governor who shall rule my people Israel. Of course, this is yet to be fulfilled now. It was prophetic. So, anyway, this is interesting. The Aryan Manifesto. Will they receive the news that the Christ is already back? Now, to understand, as we've said over the scriptures, everything he did then as Jesus was prophetic of today. And I've been talking a lot with Adam Yates, who is putting together a document, and he's looking for our rebuttal of the information that he puts in, which I've been giving him. To rely on the texts written by men is dangerous. As I said to him, God hides and protects that which is precious to him. So we get down to the world today where Yah is back, and as the comforter, he teaches all things, but he has to sort it all out and speak very plainly and simply to people so that they can understand. Adam has spent a marvellous couple of years, and he has become adept in the knowledge of the law, common law, and using the enemy's legalese, if you like, terms against them. So sorting through all of the information that he has picked up, including the study of the Bhagavad Gita, and Hinduism, which is entirely appropriate. We're going to him, so he understands it all, and he's able to tell us this is what this means, this is what that means, etc., etc. And he's excited about it. It's going to India. It would be great if Adam could get there by some miracle. But really what it boils down to, Yah is back. He speaks very plainly. The convoluted language and the use of language against the masses is what our system of the beast is all about. No longer is the word spoken. Can it be trusted? And a trust is that between two people, to trust one another. Yet let your yes be yes and your nay be nay. Anything more is of the evil one. And as Adam stated, the rules and the statutes and the codes and all of the paperwork associated with today's communications is because trust between just two souls, whether it be in a man and a woman or a man and a man, shaking hands, I said yes, that's the trust created between two souls. That doesn't need any paperwork. So Yah's not a big one for paperwork. Can't get much simpler than let your yes be yes and your nay be nay. Anything more is of the evil one. Adam, I said to you that Francis himself, and this has been the case throughout the history of the Catholic Church, Catholic meaning universal, goes right back to John 16:18, upon this rock. Now, it was Peter, Simon Peter, It was Simon Peter, thou art the Christ. Who do they, meaning men, say that I am? Some say he was Elias, some say he was this, some say he was that. Some say he was John the Baptist even. But it was Simon Peter who said, thou art the Christ. And in response, as Jesus, he says, upon this rock. Now, what was the rock? Well, first of all, it was Cephas meaning stone. Upon this rock. So it was a direct reference to Peter himself. But it was also the knowledge, the inspired words that he spoke, thou art the Christ. So upon this rock of Peter himself and the knowledge that was given to him, because as Jesus, he said, well, my Father who is in heaven showed you this. Well, the Father was within inside of Jesus. It was the soul of the Father. But to differentiate realms, if you like, he spoke, my Father who is in heaven. Well, Father is in heaven now because the solar system has moved back into the north side of the Milky Way galaxy equatorial plane, which is where the place of heaven is. But the earth is the ship that has got us there. We've all been riding the ship, the ark, to get us back over to the north side of the galaxy where heaven was. We are now in heaven as that place in reference to distance from where we were south of the equator in 33 AD. Our Father who is in, well, it's the Father now. He's on the earth, but we are in the heavenly realm. And it is all being sorted. The judgment is occurring, all being sorted, and the reaping is to come. Because all things that offend are cast out of the kingdom of heaven. Heaven on the earth. So the Aryans have got it right. And that is what Hitler was all about. Evil, the swearing of oaths. Think of the Jesuit oath that Francis has sworn. Totally evil. Now, even Pope Benedict, as much as a lamb that he was, he was, I've sworn an oath to Francis to honour him, uphold him as the, hello? You can read about it in the ledger, if you like, the archives, the conversation that was going on. I say to him, well, you've sworn an oath to the Antichrist. It's null and void. You're talking with God in the flesh. What is your oath to him? That your yes be yes. Also, Adam, take note when this document that you're writing, it's for Francis. I've said this in our communications, but so that everybody knows. This document that Adam is preparing is for Francis. Speaking straight to him, it's for him. There is no convincing, or needs to be convincing of the flock, as you call them, for it is the ones who recognize the shepherds that come into the sheep, recognize the shepherd that comes into the sheepfold. All Yah had to do was to have Benedict, who is Petros Romanus, Peter II. He is the primate apostle, meaning the first, the head apostle. He is back, known as Benedict XVI, renamed Petros Romanus by the Christ in their first communications, as the Christ was making plain to Benedict the meanings of the revelations of 1711, and that is about the 7 and the 8 kings. The 8th is of the 7. Well, Benedict was of the 7th. He is the last, because what we have in position now is the Antichrist, that being Francis. So the document, don't go, we don't need to go into a true history of the world or anything like that. However, as you've rightly pointed out, in their own doctrine that they have passed, the infallibility of the Pope, you are so right, in that applies to Peter only, returned as Benedict. Christ as God, that is true. The supreme pontiff, you are right, absolutely, is Yahweh. He is the supreme pontiff. The Roman pontiff is still Benedict as Peter. What we have in position now through Francis is an impostor, someone who's sworn an oath so abominable as a Jesuit, which is another Jew front, as is Freemasonry. It's all Judaism, so they have infiltrated. So yes, the document is aimed at him, making it plain to all the world and using their own canon and ecclesiastical law against him. Exactly what you said about I said to Adam, I said, Yah speaks so plainly, and the ways, the higher, how the elite hierarchies have used language against the masses, and the veiling of everything, where speech is no longer plainly understood at all, but you have to know this, you have to be trained in this, that, the other. As a lawyer, they're nothing but thieves and deceivers and Jews. Hello? Yes, so I said to him, Yah's favourite saying, fuck off. It's his word. How would you say that? And he referred to, where would you like us to fuck off to, Master? From The Life of Brian. Anyway, this twisting of language is an abomination. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And it's the trust created between a yes or a no, communicated between two living souls walking around, two legs, their body of flesh. End of. Think of how the world would be. Yes, you need paperwork to track deliveries and supplies and all of that kind of thing, as in fulfilling the design. But in the communication between living souls, yes or no. And you know that the one who's given you a yes is going to fulfill that word, it will be done. And if he says no, then no, that's it. There's no second guessing, yes or no. Would you like to go out to dinner with me on this night? Yes. Good, okay, you know it's going to happen. Or no, all right, don't have to second guess, I can move on. But to make an arrangement and then come back in with an excuse for not getting there or whatever is really very annoying. It's happened to Yah recently. There was a trust created when one said yes, come to lunch recently, remember? Peter set it up. So there was a trust created between two living souls when one extended the invitation, and it was accepted, yes, and then the one who created the trust in the first place null and voids it, backs out. Makes an excuse, I can't be there, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. Well, that's really bloody irritating. So in the kingdom, there'd be very little paperwork. Yah hates paperwork. Except for the flow of goods. Trace the flow of goods. As far as agreements and contracts and all the rest of it, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So, where are we at right now? I think we're probably almost out of time. So yes, Adam is marvellous. I mean, his knowledge is remarkable and sense of humour. And Adam, of course, went to school in Margate, and I told him we were in Margate. And this leads again to the Pauline wife, who was born in Margate, wasn't she?
Yep.
Yes. So we were there in June 2013, our time at Folkestone. It was all to do with the measurements. And Adam has identified all of Yah's body of work. This work that he does is Yahweh's ledger. This is where the truth lies. Not in the interpretations of men's words and understandings, their own understandings, but Yahweh's ledger. This is his measuring of his temple, which is the earth. That's where the truth is. So from now on, we refer to all that information as being part of Yahweh's ledger, and it is massive. And unrebuttable and irrefutable. This is the point. Francis comes back. We should make this a point in the approach to Francis as in the document, Adam. Francis, in his rejection, recorded in Christum Credent, this is the knowledge, upon this rock I will build my church. Peter first, and then the knowledge. Francis himself says, Christ has not returned, and this man is certainly not. Go and read it. I'll go over and find it now, because we can get him on his own words. He's come back with a counter-claim, if you like, to what Benedict is telling him, declaring. This is the claim. Benedict has, as you said, by faith, the greater, recognised, because his calling card is the Shroud of Turin. But Francis has come straight back with, this man is certainly, Christ has certainly not returned, and this man is not him, whatever. And so he completely rejected. But there was no body of evidence, no rebuttal. It was just his ignorance, because he is the Antichrist. So let's go after him. Let's hang him on his own words. We want him to prove by his own, Francis's own body of evidence, that Yah is not who Yah proves he is from his Yahweh ledger. Do you see where I'm going? I'm speaking to Adam now. I said that this show would be for Adam. So pick up on that train. Remember, was not talking to the flock. The flock comes in under Benedict. It's not about the Episcopal Church, which is the Catholic and Protestant together. It's not about them. It's about nobody, no other soul. Let's make it strictly. It was a very personal hurling of the stone between David and Goliath. It was just the two of them. David being the small boy, of course, and Goliath being this giant who had brothers. That's why David had 5 stones. It wasn't that he needed the 5 to get Goliath. He only needed the 1. But Goliath's brothers, in this case, Goliath being Francis, the Antichrist, sitting, or not even sitting on the throne, but in that position that Benedict will return to. And then, of course, it is Francis now in this ecumenical movement, bringing along the brothers in your Protestants, your Pentecostals, all of the other religions. This is what Goliath, as in Francis, is doing here, is aligning them all. Well, it has nothing to do with them. They are all wrong. And they only come into the fold when Benedict comes back in the position as Peter the second, because he is Peter the first returned, and he is under the guidance, the wonderful counselor of the Father, the Comforter, the Holy Ghost, not Holy Spirit. The Holy Ghost, who is today known as Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall. The new name of Jesus, and the name that only he knew or would know of the Revelation 19:12. So if only he knows that name, he is the one that has had to declare it. And declaring it, he has been doing, all part of Yahweh's ledger. So the document is aimed at Francis, personally. David and Goliath, it was a very personal rock he hurled at the forehead. Francis. Using the ecclesiastical terms, the canon law, etc., 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 this body of works around them that is upholding at the moment. And so falsely. This is the point, even in the church militant. The church militant are the ones who are upholding Vatican I, knowing that Vatican II destroyed the church, brought this schism and allowed in every foul and abominable thing under the sun, which was the whole purpose. It's totally Jewish. Yeah, so now I'm going to find the words of Francis in Christum Credent in his rejection. You are the use these words against him. Demand a rebuttal. Where is Francis' body of evidence? As you so rightly pointed out, they haven't. As a matter of fact, the approach to us through the PR person, the one who called himself Andrew Pereira, how long did that last? Not long at all. A letter from Sister Maria de la Rosa. Alright, here we go. I'm looking at in Christum Credent now. And the meeting with Pope Francis and Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI regarding Mr. Brian Marshall's claim to be the Christ. Just reading in entirety on Saturday, March the 23rd, 2013, Pope Francis, my successor, had made a historic visit to see me at Castel Gandolfo. We embraced each other, prayed together, but when speaking about Mr. Brian Marshall, that part was done privately, meaning no media, for only 45 minutes. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, has given me the permission to write this down on this apostolic letter. I informed him about Mr. Brian Marshall and said that I believed that he is the reincarnated Christ. And then I asked him, after presenting the evidence and some of the video the Marshalls have prepared for us, and he replied to it by saying this, bold, Francis, Christ has not come yet, and this man is surely not he. I refuse to make any sort of announcement about him. I am truly sorry, Holy Father. So that's his rejection with no... Where is his body of evidence to say that he is not? Anyway, you get my drift. So go through it in Christum Credent thoroughly. I'm sure you already have. But yes, that is the knowledge, and it's Peter himself being back in Benedict. Peter is the rock. Peter himself is the rock. The knowledge is thou art the Christ. Upon this rock, Peter and that knowledge, I will build my church, future, now, and the gates of hell, the Vatican under Francis, shall not prevail over it. And the sheep come into the fold after the removal of Francis. And Benedict returned. 64 minutes, we're over. Do you have anything else to say, babe?
No.
Okay. With that, we'll go out with the Go Lightly Marshall Hour Choir and be back tomorrow. Later, Gators.
The Go Lightly Marshall